Oh snap, just when we were finally starting to make some dang money again in this market, we got the vibes turning negative after hours. I got to talk about what's going on. Two companies came out with numbers, and essentially this has taken all the futures down. I want to share my perspective on this, share everything that's going on, explain to you guys what's going on here. Some of it's a little ridiculous in my personal opinion. By the way, let me know how the audio sounds in this video. I got a lot of complaints in the last video that the audio was really low. I always read through the comments, and a lot of you guys were saying the audio is low. Listen, I don't do any post-production. There's no edits to my video. I record all in one take, unless it's like a sponsored video, which is hardly any, right? So this is going to be a pure take. So if there's any issue, it's not in the editing or anything like that, because there's no editing. So maybe it's the microphone, but let me know. Let me know if this sounds normal to you. Let me know. Obviously, guys will tell me, okay? So, let's talk about what's going on here. So I did a video 4 days ago explaining what was going on this week in the stock market, right? And there's one specific thing I covered in that video that I explained, which was Thursday after the bell, a little company named Snapchat is reporting earnings, okay? And that company, although I do not agree with it, it moves several of the biggest companies in the world's market caps. I do not agree with that. I don't think that's right, but it is what it is. And the Snapchat company literally can move Meta. It can move Google. It can even move Amazon. And so, you would say that's absolutely ridiculous, but in the stock market, it is what it is. You can complain, you can cry, or you can understand this is part of the process, okay? Snap shares plunged 25% on disappointing second quarter results in plans to slow hiring, which is, I think just about every single company has said that over the past few months, let's just put it that way. Snap shares plummeted more than 25% in extended trading on Thursday after the social media company reported disappointing second quarter results and instead it plans to slow hiring as it reckons with weakening revenue growth. Also, co-founders Evan Spiegel and Chief Technology Officer Bobby Murphy have basically done new employment contracts that are going to last till at least January of 2027. Earnings per share came in at a loss of 2 cents, adjusted versus an expected loss of 1 cent. Revenue came in at 1.1 billion versus 1.14 billion was expected, so not a disaster. DAUs came in pretty respectable, 347 versus 344, so there's no disaster there, okay? Let me show you where the disaster is in the report. This is bad. This is what happened, okay? In its investor letter, Snap said it's not providing guidance for the third quarter because, quote, forward-looking visibility remains incredibly challenging, end quote. The company said that revenue so far in the period is, quote, approximately flat from a year ago. That's a disaster. That's horrible. No bueno. Awful. Analysts were expecting sales growth of 18% for the third quarter. So here we are in this moment in time where Snapchat just said, you know what? Y'all thought we were going to grow this upcoming quarter, but actually it's going to be probably around break-even revenue versus the previous year. Yeah, if analysts are expecting you to grow nearly 20% revenues and you come in with no growth, your stock's going to tank. And even if you're a beaten down dog stock, which is Snapchat, let's be very clear. Snap is a beaten down dog stock. That stock going into these earnings was already down, probably 60, 70% year to date, something like that. And so, to get the stock like that down even more, you have to come in with a disaster. If you are saying you're not going to grow your business next quarter and analysts expect you to grow almost 20%, that's a disaster. Let's be quite clear with that. So this past quarter, earnings not too bad. This future quarter, okay. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's in a panic on Wall Street and they're like, oh my gosh, if Snap can't grow, maybe everybody else can't grow, right? And so ultimately, this is sending all these other stocks down after hours. Look at Meta. Meta's down almost 5% after hours. Meta's one of the biggest market cap companies in the world at nearly $500 billion. So if you send Meta down 4 or 5% tomorrow, it's going to pull the entire NASDAQ down tomorrow. Google McDougal makes Meta look like a little company. This is a $1.5 trillion market cap. This stock is down over 2.5% after hours. Now, you might look at this and say, this has to be some kind of sick joke. Snap, is a complete and utter joke if you compare them to Meta or compare them to Google. Like, they're not even on the same playing field. I agree with you 100%. Snap should not be compared in any form to Meta and Google. But the way people look at it is they say, well, if advertising revenue is going to be weak for Snap in this upcoming quarter, then it has to be weak for Meta and Google. Doesn't mean it's right. That's just what people assume. And if Meta would have came in, or excuse me, if Snap would have came in with incredible growth, then people would have assumed Meta and Google would have insane growth as well. Okay, so I agree. It's just it shouldn't be this way, but it is this way. Okay, it's also moving other stocks out there, such as Pinterest. Now, I almost kind of understand it moving Pinterest. I mean, Pinterest down about 6.5% after hours after these Snap earnings. You know, Pinterest is in the same category as a Snap. If you want to find companies to compare Snap to, I say compare them to Pins, compare them to Twitter, compare them to companies like that are much smaller in their scale overall than something like a Meta or a Google, because those companies are just at a whole different level, man. Like if you're an advertiser, small business, mid-sized business, or large company, who are you going to first off if you're going to advertise? You're going to Google and you're going to Facebook. Bottom line, ask anybody that knows anything about business. Those are the first two platforms you're going. You want to advertise on those. If you want to talk about down the road, you can start exploring Snapchat and Twitter ads and Pinterest and all these other ones. But let's be very clear, for every single real business person in the world, small, mid, or big, they all consider Facebook first, okay? And Instagram, which is obviously a property of Facebook, right? And they consider Google. That's just a bottom line. Twitter's down 2% after hours there. And even the almighty Amazon. A $1.2 trillion market cap is down almost 1% after hours because they snapped. Because here's the deal. If you didn't know, Amazon, this is very important for everybody watching this, Amazon's two core businesses are obviously the e-commerce business and Amazon Web Services. But now the third big giant business for Amazon now at this point in time is advertising. So because Snap came in, weak numbers, it's even moving Amazon. And you might say, well, it's only moving it down 1%. Here's the deal, okay? These numbers start to get so big in the stock market that sometimes we discount, how big these numbers are. If Snapchat just moved Amazon down 1%, that's $12 billion of market capitalization lost from Amazon right there, just because Snap came out with a disappointing report. Think about that for a moment, right? I mean, it's not a small number. $12 billion of market cap is a pretty insane number. So, I mean, this is what it is in regards to Snap. And you look at the Google Trends. I mean, I pulled up a 5-year of Snapchat on Google Trends and look at, I mean, it's pretty much just been down and down and down and down and down for 5 years. And yeah, they've grown users over the last 5 years and things like that, and they've grown their revenue. But at the end of the day, I just have felt like Snapchat's prime was in that kind of 2017, 2018 era. And, it just seems like they've gotten a lot of their attention taken away by Instagram and by TikTok. And I think a lot of people that used to spend an enormous amount of time on Snap, I think a lot of those folks spend their time, I mean, like I just think about like who I know in real life, right? The older crowd, they all use, like the older folks I know, they all use either Facebook or Instagram. And then the younger folks I know, like they either use TikTok or Instagram. Like those are the things they're always on. So like I feel like some people still have Snapchat and maybe they talk to one or two people on there. But I just feel like that's a platform that's just, they just seem to have had a lot of trouble competing with TikTok and competing with Instagram, to be quite frank. And I think, honestly, both those platforms are completely eating Snapchat's lunch. So, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, that baby moves the market, and you cannot deny it. And so that's why this whole market's going. Now, also after hours, out of nowhere, Corsair Gaming, CRSR, came out, okay? And the stock's down almost 10% after hours, roughly. And that stock had been slowly coming back after, a 52-week low just a few weeks ago. So, Corsair Gaming, first off, they said they're going to have their conference call in earnings on August 4th. But the company announced preliminary unaudited revenue of $284 million, with preliminary adjusted EBITDA expected to be a loss of $10 mil to $11 mil for the quarter. That's no bueno. Here's the deal. The analysts were expecting, if I recall, for this quarter around $350 for revenue. So huge, disastrous miss there for Corsair Gaming. Andy Paul, Chief Executive Officer of Corsair, commented, quote, "The first half of the year has been a challenging time, as we expected, with macroeconomic headwinds affecting consumer spending on gaming gear, especially in Europe. This has caused a buildup of inventory both in our warehouses as well as retail channel, thus causing our channel partners to delay ordering while they clear this excess." So basically what that tells you is, like, the whole 2022 is ruined for Corsair Gaming in terms of numbers. Because if you've got a buildup of inventory, not just in your own warehouses, but in the retail channel, it's going to take, several quarters to work through all that inventory essentially. So 2022 is kind of ruined. Now it's interesting because I go to like Best Buy stores and whatnot, and I don't see like this insane glut of inventory of Corsair products that, I guess is out there. So maybe it's other channels. I don't know. It's just interesting because Best Buy, I actually see several outs when I go to walk these different Best Buy stores. So, it is what it is. But nonetheless, that's basically telling us that, 2022 is just kind of a lost year for Corsair Gaming. That's the best way to describe it. It's a lost year for Corsair Gaming. We have already taken actions to mitigate this and made substantial progress during the quarter to reduce inventory levels. We have also proactively taken actions to reduce operating expenses and taken some reserves against potential inventory overhangs. We are pleased to see the recent upticks in activity as enthusiasts looking to build gaming PCs, which are component products and GPU cards, are now generally readily available at attractive prices. In addition, our Amazon Prime Day results showed a promising start to Q3 and the second half of 2022. Industry estimates for total Amazon Prime Day sales were up over 10% year over year, and Amazon sales for Corsair products during Prime Week demonstrated very strong growth compared to last year. And in particular, components used to build gaming PCs showed sales growth of over 35%. We observed growth both in the United States and European markets. Overall, we believe the self-built gaming PC market will begin to accelerate in the second half of 2022 with new higher power GPUs launching during the same period. We expect even stronger activity in 2023. We'll discuss this more in detail at our earnings release August 4th, 2022. So, obviously bad numbers for Corsair Gaming in the short term. There's no denying that. But they do have some stuff absolutely to look forward to, not just in the back half of this year, but into 2023. And obviously I have some good news in regards to that Amazon Prime Day, which just very, very recently happened here, okay? Now, here's what I think is going to happen. I think analysts are going to take their EPS numbers all the way down to maybe 0 or something close to that for 2022. Like I said, I think this is just a lost year. I think EPS is going to be a mess this year. And I would not have any expectations for EPS this year. When you talk about revenue being down substantially year over year, when you talk about excess inventory in the channel, when you talk about all those things, it's going to kill a lot of the profitability, if not most of profitability. So I wouldn't be surprised if analysts take their numbers down to 0 for this particular year and just chalk it up as like, this is a lost year, man. Just bottom line there. And right now, analysts had this company losing basically their revenue being down about 10% for current year. I think analysts are going to bring this down to 25%-ish on average, somewhere around there, 20-25% down year over year. Now, I would say this is not the worst thing in the world from a longer term perspective, because this is going to set up a situation now where the comps year over year are going to be incredibly easy for next year, right? Because here's the deal. The 2020 and 2021 comps were kind of insane to comp against year over year. And this is a very important metric that Wall Street looks at to judge companies. They look at what's your growth versus the same quarter the previous year. So for Corsair Gaming, they've had these ridiculous comps to comp against because everybody was forced to be home. You had stimulus money out there. And so 2020 and 2021, for the most part, were beautiful years for Corsair Gaming. 2022, completely a lost year for Corsair Gaming, right? And so now, as we go into once we get into 2023, think about how easy these comps are going to be year over year to beat numbers, right? Which is a huge game of Wall Street because everybody wants to see, the momentum is back going again. Now, instead of revenue being down 20, 30, 40% year over year like they were reporting last year, now all of a sudden they're back to growth. 10%, 15%. It doesn't even have to be close to back to levels that they were doing in 2020, 2021. All everybody looks at is that year over year numbers in the stock market, okay? And then you start getting the buyer momentum start coming back in the stock and those sorts of things. And you get EPS to kind of come around and those sorts of things. So for 2023 for Corsair Gaming, right? The revenge travel will be long gone at that point in time. Right now, we're dealing with obviously revenge travel season going on, where everybody was cooped up for a long time and looking to get out there in the world. And we know, travel's been insanely busy. Whether any sort of travel, right? Like look at the news and how many flights are delayed and all that whole situation. There's a revenge travel time going on right now. People getting out and about and doing things, right? GPU pricing has just finally very recently come back to normal pricing. GPUs were ridiculously priced for a long time. So we're going to and I don't see GPU pricing going insane anytime soon, just looking at kind of the overall economic environment, everything that's going on. So I think GPUs can remain in a normal priced environment for at least the next, I would say, 12 to 24 months. We have Modern Warfare 2 coming out at the end of 2022, which I think is going to be the first big game to get the gaming space excited in a long time. In a long flipping flapjack in time. I mean, we had Fortnite, which was a huge game, right? From there, we went into Rona. So that was kind of like two bullish things you had for gaming back to back. You had Fortnite, and then all of a sudden, right after that, you went into Rona, right? And, that was very, very bullish for gaming for a bit there. But recently, like what's been exciting in the gaming space that's really gotten the masses involved. I'm not talking about like the niche side of gaming. I'm talking about, if you were to talk about putting up big numbers for a company Corsair, you need a game so big that it gets, folks like myself maybe that don't even hardly ever game say, oh man, that looks awesome, I want to play that. And it becomes like a cultural thing, right? So that is the first game I think we've had in some time that actually has that sort of ability, okay? The Corsair is going to have cake comps for all of 2023, and I think there's going to be a year where they're going to be able to show incredible growth in revenues, margins, and earnings per share all at the same time in the same year. And so, Corsair, there's nothing to be excited about Corsair this year, to be honest, in terms of numbers. But I think in 2023, especially if they lean out inventory going into 2023, I think Corsair is going to be set up in a very, very good position. So if the stocks is down in any meaningful way tomorrow, and not just over tomorrow, but over the next few months, I'm going to look to buy more shares of this company. This is one of those that, like I said, I think everything's just going to kind of come together all at once for this company in 2023. And this is just a lost year for Corsair Gaming. That's the best way I could describe it as a shareholder. It's a lost year. It's one of those years you get to accumulate shares at a very cheap prices because no one wants to be in a stock that's going through a lost year, right? People like to, especially trader money and the algorithms, they like to be in a stock that there's excitement for there. Corsair Gaming has nothing to be excited for this year, but things start to get very, very exciting in 2023 because of everything I just kind of laid out there. And so, it'll make a pretty epic run. I wouldn't be surprised if it starts to make a run even before 2023 because, there's some folks out there that know some things. And Corsair is one of those stocks that's on hedge funds' radar. And so they'll start to put kind of the pieces together, I think, at the end of this year and, start jumping in that before it makes its big move. So now, in terms of the market, we'll see what happens because American Express reports in the morning, and American Express can potentially move the market in itself. And so right now, the vibes are very negative going into tomorrow because of Snapchat in particular, and everybody looks at Snapchat. That could all change by the morning, depending upon what American Express comes through with numbers, guidance, those sorts of things. So I think that will matter in a big, meaningful way there. Hope you guys enjoyed this as always. By the way, I just got a brand new channel started here where I react to the most interesting finance content I can possibly find out there. I'm going to try to do 3 to 5 videos a week on that particular channel. So if you want to check that out, check out pin comment down there, or you can just type in, into YouTube, Jeremy Lefebvre Makes Money. That's a channel name, man. I try my best, okay? That's about all I could think of. So anyways, guys, much love as always, and have a great day.